Hey, everybody, I'm Aslan Javani, joined by Tom Lang. He is over at the 93.3 studios. He and Jeff Cameron about to do a show. You should always check them out Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, 1 to 3 o'clock on 93.3 FM, as well as here on Warchant TV. You can always hit the thumbs up as well to share support. If you can't tune in, but you always should be tuning in. We just got back from practice not too long ago, Tom. You're shoehorning that in between your job over there, executive producing the Jeff Cameron show. We did speak to Jared Verse. We did speak to Jammie Robinson. We also spoke to Coach Mike Norvell before those two guys. They both are at practice on Tuesday. They both intend on playing in the bowl game. Does that change any of the calculus in your head when you think about whether or not they return for 2023?
I was shocked just to hear that in the first place. I was interviewing Dylan Gibbons, as I think you were with Jared Verse, and then Jammie was across the way. And it didn't come up quite the same for Dylan Gibbons. The question was more like, was there a conversation with the veterans in order to, you're past game 12. You don't have to be here necessarily. And so it was kind of couched that way. So when I came back and Ira told me that they're playing, I thought, well, do I have to redo the math on next year? I'm asking those questions. For Jammie Robinson, I feel like his stock in terms of his NFL draft potential is where it's going to be. I don't know that a bowl game can affect him one way or the other. For Jared Verse, I think it's important to put another game on film, especially if it's against a Power 5 opponent. We'll see who the bowl opponent is going to be. But he didn't have the best night against Florida. And I understand that their offensive line might have been guilty of some holds, but still, you're allowed to make a play. And Jared Verse made a ton of plays earlier this season, starting with an SEC opponent and LSU. So I think for Verse, there's more to gain for his NFL stock. I just can't imagine that this is a precursor to those two players deciding to come back, or at least one of them deciding to come back next year. But you know what? I've been shocked once today. So if I'm shocked again, then that's on me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. If anything, maybe this will show the sort of buy-in and culture that everybody so desired. I mean, the fact that you have guys wanting to play in the bowl game in this day and age where everybody kind of sits it out. Jared Verse said that, his intention the entire time was to play the bowl game and to not take that for any sort of indication of him staying or leaving. But if you listen to his interview, which is on our YouTube channel, I mean, it does sound like he's leaning towards, I would think, going toward the NFL. I mean, he mentioned the fact that his mom's already got pamphlets and folders laid out their dinner table back at home to discuss this decision. And what's going to weigh on him, he says, is seeing whether or not, the probability that he could fall or rise if he comes back for another year. And I think when you start getting into that math, it's, when you're slotted as a first round pick by Mel Kiper, it's going to be a lot more tough to move up than it would to drop back. And then, I don't know, with Jammie, I mean, him saying that he's going to go to the Senior Bowl and accepting that invite, I don't know what the precedence is for accepting a Senior Bowl invite and going out to Mobile and then coming back. But, I mean, they've done all they can for this program. So I don't think anybody would begrudge them for leaving, though, right?
No, I don't think so. But it's refreshing to have this conversation. I'm not a purist who says that if you participated all 12 games that you need to play in the bowl game. I don't go that far. But if you're choosing to come back and play another game for Florida State when, it could go either way. We've seen some bad moments for players like De'Aaron King at Miami, Jalen Smith. Remember that he was out in the Fiesta Bowl and that hurt his stock as he went to the next level. There is some risk involved here. But that shows you it's just another piece, Aslan. We've seen a lot of these practices from fall camp and on. There aren't a whole lot of moments where somebody gets out of line and then they have to be either separated or they get tossed out of practice. Like, that's not a huge part of what we see day to day with this program. The culture in that locker room seems like it's about as good as it's been since I don't even know when in the last 10 or 15 years. This is more evidence of that. And it's just these guys tend to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to buying into what Mike Norvell is selling. And I think it's just, and maybe you agree, maybe you don't, but I think it's more evidence that you've got yourself a pretty good culture here where guys actually care to play for each other rather than always making a bottom line, a first person decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Norvell even said so much for himself after practice about, he's going to have to make decisions and hand out advice to guys that might go against his selfish interests. He might have to actually tell kids like, hey, man, you should probably go, man. This is the best decision for you. So that's refreshing to hear. Spinning it forward here real quickly, Tom, both these guys came from the portal, so they can be replaced from the portal. But I don't know how much you're going to be able to get a facsimile of each of these guys because they are so talented. You did see flashes in South Carolina of what Jammie Robinson could be. Jared was just was a huge X factor, but everybody in the country seemed to want him. Clearly, they've got guys like Patrick Payton, Derek McClendon that could, develop and blossom another year, but it's going to be probably imperative for them to go get proven guys from the high Power 5 level or maybe not because Jared Verse didn't come from the high power 5 level, but they'll have to be replaced in the portal. I would think this isn't something they can kind of organically create and churn through the roster they have right now to replace those two.
I don't think so at either position group. And I'd say you might be able to fill some of the needs that you have with Jammie Robinson departing, and we're going to assume that he does for this exercise, by just bringing in more cornerbacks. Because one thing that they did a lot of down the stretch this season was run 3 safety sets, and they got Jammie Robinson down near the box in that slot area where he could be around the line of scrimmage and make plays around the line of scrimmage. And that meant that Akeem Dent and Shaheem Brown, when Akeem was fully healthy, they would be in the back end of the defense. Well, if you've got a slot corner that you really like, then that can help fill one gap. So the defensive back core in general, they need more bodies to address the problem. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a safety per se, because Jammie Robinson was a Swiss Army knife. But then, on the defensive front at edge, where they went for Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas and then for Jared Verse, they've got to hit that portal again. Patrick Payton is a nice player. He's going to have to hit the weight room in order to be able to handle down in, down out responsibilities against the run, not just the pass rushing part of the job. Derek McClendon had flashes this year as well. But, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, too. If Florida State puts out the word that they want an edge rusher, they're about to get 2 guys who came in for 1 season, and they're going to make a whole lot of money in back-to-back years. So it's an easy pitch to make, but they've got to go out and do that again. And I think, again, when you look at the defensive back core, it could be corners that help you make up for your safeties, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not on the doorstep of 10 wins with a bunch of average players. They had to have some stars really step up. Jammie Robinson's been one. Jared Verse has been one. Hopefully they return, as unlikely as it might seem right now as we talk about it, but surely they can hopefully find some pieces that can fill those gaps if it were to come to that. Stay tuned to warchant.com throughout this week. We don't know if it's going to actually be considered bowl prep. They get 15 of these, but they practice on Wednesday. They'll be back at it on Thursday. Tom and Jeff, 1 to 3 o'clock again over on the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 FM, as well as Warchant TV. And we'll be back out at practice on Thursday. I'll see you out there, Tom, right?
Looking forward to it. We'll see if they actually go the full 2 hours this time or if they break after an hour.
Yeah, Mother Nature. She's got plans, so we have to get involved. He's Tom. I'm Maslow. Thanks for watching. Stay connected to warchant.com and hit the thumbs up on the way out.